Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Freight to the Point. I'm Alex Hersham, and I'm joined today by Alexander Leichter, CEO and founder at Byrd. Byrd supports SMEs and fast-growing direct-to-consumer brands with a fully automated fulfillment process that can integrate with any business's shop system. Through their international fulfillment network, Byrd can successfully manage peaks in demand and increase order volumes. Welcome, Alex.
Hey, other Alex, I guess. Thanks for having me. Very excited.
I'm really glad that you're on today. Okay, so on today's episode, I think what we're going to try and do is first maybe understand a bit about what is order fulfillment, and then move on very quickly to what is the role of some of these new technology businesses, including Byrd, in the space. What outcomes can it drive? How is it different? But maybe just start with the high level. What is order fulfillment? And maybe you can provide a brief overview of its key components.
Absolutely. I think it can be a bit nebulous what fulfillment actually is. I think for me the best way to think about it on an abstract level is really everything that happens once you click on buy in an online shop until you have the goods in your hand is broadly order fulfillment, right? There's a lot of processes that fall into that. I think the key components really here are collecting the orders, right? If you've ordered different items, make sure you get all of those different items, package them in appropriate packaging material, and then dispatch the goods, meaning hand them over to a last mile service provider and deliver them to your doorstep. And after that, typically, right, there's a industry dependent, there's certain return rates. Returning all of the process. If you want to take a wide scope, you could also see as part of the fulfillment cycle. Yeah.
Okay, so you're specifically the warehouse that's doing the pick and pack, and then you're handing it over to whichever your customers determine to be the last mile carrier, but you're also receiving back any returns, resorting, and doing whatever returns process there is there.
Correct. Basically end to end, right? Anything that an online merchant needs, anything that can happen in the life cycle of a good, from purchase to basically refund, all the operational topics that are there, as you mentioned, pick and pack, ship, return, and putting it back into the warehouse stock. That's all we do, and those are the service portfolio we provide. Correct.
Fantastic. And then if your customer also has either a physical network like stores, or they sell B2B who then sell direct to consumer, do you deal with that delivery as well, or is it just the direct to consumer side that's your focus?
Yeah, we do both. In fact, we started the business direct to consumer focus because that's kind of our origin. But as our brands grew as well, it's quite natural in this life cycle of a brand to eventually explore retail as one of your sales channels. And most of our larger brands have kind of an omni-channel strategy, so they sell direct to consumer, but they also sell through retail or other options and other platforms, for example, and we cater for all of that. So direct to consumers means typically sending shipments in the size of a parcel, a couple of items, and B2B in retail says our clients tell us, hey, I need, I don't know, anything from 1 pallet to 200 pallets shipped to this retailer or this platform, and it can be into 10,000s of products. So very different process, very different skill set. But over the years, we've built both modules, kind of the B2B module and the B2C module.
But that's what's really exciting in supply chain, this whole idea of direct to consumer versus retail. I think those sort of terminologies are going to die off in the next couple of years, because to be successful, you have to be where the customer is. You have to be omni-channel. You have to be thinking about these different strategies. Obviously, we've just come off a 15-year period, sort of from the mid-2000s, and then re-accelerated through COVID, where e-com was all the rage, and sort of consumer expectations has changed dramatically. Before we get on to specifically what you do differently as a technology player, how should businesses be thinking about the importance of their fulfillment stack and how it drives and should support sort of their customers and the expectation of their customers?
Yeah, I think what you just pointed at, right? The surge of e-commerce in the last 15 years has been staggering, and we've been benefiting from that as well. I think, and personally, I think what we're seeing at the moment is also that trend to, after coming down from a COVID kind of supernatural high, we're seeing it coming down to natural growth levels again in 2023. And that's still exciting growth, right? That's a pretty rapid growth for an industry that has a penetration across Europe versus offline retail of still in many countries below 10%. So we are expecting the market share to increase there significantly. So the environment is still a very exciting one as a direct-to-consumer brand. But I think what has fundamentally changed in the last year, certainly, but even before then, is that that a lot of people realized that potentially in the e-commerce market, so competition for merchants has gone up significantly, right? And that has driven customer acquisition costs for many brands across categories. So to build a long-term sustainable business that turns a profit, as every business has at some point, you need to diversify your channels, right? And as you pointed out, you need to be where the customer is. And I think many brands that we've seen that navigated those times most successfully are the ones that have a direct-to-consumer strategy, but also have a strategy to get into retail. There's a whole another discussion to be had. What's the right timing for that and strategy for that? But I think ultimately that's where the future is going to lie. I don't think direct-to-consumer retail is going to be that strictly determined or separated, but it's as you said, it needs to be both if you want to have a long-term sustainable business. What that means for the fulfillment stack is, I think, very clear, right? If you the requirements that you have to fulfill as a merchant in terms of your supply chain capability is increasing massively because of the omni-channels you have to drive, right? The kind of the simple, just direct to consumer and back, which in itself is not as simple as it sounds. Anyone who's in logistics knows that. But that is going to get multiplied by providing different channels, selling through your own website, your platform, retailers. So you need to either be very good at it yourself or have a partner you trust to handle that very well. So I think very important stack. Yeah, talking one logistics guy to the other, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, no, of course. And what I love about the future of commerce, especially for brands, is that some decisions around what do you want your business to look like then trickle down to, and how do you manage your supply chain? If you have a store network in the future, which I think many brands or most brands probably will, what is the point of that store? And that then feeds right back into not just the landed cost, like the overall cost to then sell it to the consumer. How do you best manage your inventory, central versus distributed, and all the challenges that come to that? We're probably not going to dive into that today, but that's one of the many things that gets me super passionate about the next 5 to 10 years in supply chain. But okay, so
fully agree.
So you're the team managing the inventory, picking, packing, sending it to customers, place an order for one of these ship happens t-shirts, and Alex at Byrd will fulfill it for you. Totally get that. Businesses have been doing this since before Byrd, and now Byrd has come into the market and is saying we can do it better leveraging technology. Why?
Good question. Look, as you said, fulfillment has been around since the age of e-commerce, which is a bit older than Byrd. I think what makes our approach kind of unique is that we set out from little Austria, right, where I'm from originally, and the challenge we saw is that merchants in Europe, in particular, are extremely limited by their supply chain, meaning. You start, for example, as an Austrian merchant, you try to go to Germany, you immediately have a big supply chain challenge because you need suddenly a warehouse in Germany and you need last mile services in Germany when you were only used to kind of maybe work with the Austrian Post and had your goods in-house, right? And that was kind of the starting point that we said, why is that? Why is that e-commerce is progressing so far, but we're still stuck with like 250-year-old supply chains, national supply chains in Europe? So kind of the mission we took upon is really not building the best Austrian or the best German fulfillment for that matter, but really build European fulfillment, right? We wanted to offer a solution that merchants can use to basically tackle all of Europe with one partner, one unified technology. We will never be able to kind of fully eliminate the complexity that is built over the 250 years, but we can certainly help navigating that and managing that through technology. So what we do as Byrd is effectively we provide our merchants a solution, a technology solution that gives you not access to one warehouse and one or two last mile services in a given country. When you join Byrd, you actually get access to currently over 30 warehouses in 7 different countries and as many last mile logistics services. So, and that's relevant for you, even if you only have your home country strategy. With many brands who, for example, started in Austria, then expanded to Germany, and now they have a warehouse also in the UK and in France, and they're benefiting from massive cost reductions by being able to ship locally. Lead times are a lot faster, and not to forget also CO2 emissions are significantly lower because more than half of the CO2 emissions happen on last mile that we can significantly reduce. So all of that is kind of the service we provide, and that has never been done before. There is no European fulfillment solution that it is. And the only way we are able to do that is really by integrating all of the factors that are relevant, right? The last mile solutions, the freight forwarders, most importantly, the warehouses. So our 30 warehouses that we operate together with partners, they run on our own proprietary warehouse management system, so it gives us full control and visibility. And we work with the local partners who've sometimes been in business with over 100 years and have the local expertise and also the best talent on the ground. And that's kind of what makes us special. So we use technology to kind of overcome the national hurdles in Austria, but benefit from the wealth of local expertise that has already been there for hundreds of years, and we help them kind of getting into the 21st century. That's how we describe it. I hope it makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So if I break this down, you are a technology layer. You work with great warehousing and fulfillment providers. You give them your custom-built WMS systems, and you also integrate with a myriad of last-mile solutions. So a brand can come to you and say, "I'm already working in Germany. I plan to scale to different markets," and you have plug-and-play solutions for them. And then you essentially give them global visibility because you're streamlining all the WMS because it's all yours into one macro view, but then they have all the goods in market. And you're playing on the trend of how can you find great local partners, but then all the benefits of distributed inventory that you mentioned, cost, lead time. And I love that emissions stack, because I didn't realize it was that heavy on the last mile. Is that a good way of describing it?
Yeah, that's a good way of describing it. So we are the partners for our merchant, right? They come to us, and if we're totally hands-on. You have a contract with us. You have one partner to negotiate with on the price side, on the quality side, right? We guarantee you the highest standard SLAs, so you don't need to deal with all the local partners and the complexity that comes with it. That's part of the beauty, is that we are your single touch points to manage the entire network on your behalf. But in a nutshell, I think that's beautifully summarized.
Okay, so I love this. So let's not talk about the tech versus the service, but the outcomes that you can drive. So if I'm a brand, you're making me inherently scalable now across dozens of markets. Well, I don't know how many markets you're in, but in theory, dozens of markets across Europe, rather than having a strategy for the UK, a strategy for France, a strategy for Germany. You're basically adding scalability and firepower to these businesses.
That's exactly it, right? So what we have built is really, we've also in all of those markets, we're currently, we have warehouses in 7 markets: Germany, Austria, UK, France, Netherlands, Italy, and Spain. We can also ship in all other markets, but right, that's in those markets kind of the value add is the biggest. And we've built volume in all of those markets. So we have a great setup in terms of the warehouses, but also in terms of the last mile. All of it is kind of pre-negotiated at very competitive rates. So you come to us, you immediately benefit from us already having the scale in a certain market. You can jump on top of it, so you don't need to, right? If you were your own brand and you're just starting in that market, you'd probably have to talk to the local warehouse first. They don't know your brand. You've talked to the local last mile service. They have never heard of you, so you'll get not so competitive prices likely as well. So if you try, and that's what we had to do as well at the beginning, right? The beauty thing is we've done that work for you, so you can hop on the train that many other brands already benefit from and basically get a competitive setup in terms of prices and most importantly, maybe in terms of service levels. Yeah.
So you're supercharging their growth, you're reducing emissions, improving customer satisfaction, and doing that in a way where they can leverage your scale so that it keeps costs down. So that makes a ton of sense. I totally get the value prop. We can discuss in a moment how you go to market, how you sell. I would love to hear about those conversations. But a lot of that ends up being like, okay, you created this sort of asset-light network for them, or this scalable network across these different countries for them. How do you think about supporting them in terms of routing decisions, or is it up to them in terms of the POs that they raise and the flows that come into these various warehouses?
Very, very good question. So what we do, we provide a ton of data for our merchants, right? You can get extremely customized data reports from us, whatever you need, starting from simple things like reorder points and kind of stock limits when you run out, to more sophisticated kind of conditions. But we do not make the decision on behalf of our merchants where to locate the stock yet. The simple reason for that being is that we don't have full visibility to make the smartest call, right? A simple example is we would think based on the supply chain data that there is maybe we need to shift some inventory from UK to France. But what we don't know is that our customer has a huge marketing thing planned for the UK, and that's why exactly we don't have the demand side. So what we are working with at the moment, we have excellent account managers that have regular conversations with our customers. Hey, what's your plan for your quarter? What are you up to? And when we know that, that's where we can make the smartest decisions. Also consult our clients based on the data. Hey, you have X shipments to this destination. It would be smarter. We could save some costs if we move it left to right. But we need the demand side input from our merchants to make the smartest decision. Yeah.
And do you do the inter warehouse transfers as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are also integrated with a few fantastic freight partners that help us make that as smooth as possible. Again, competitive rates and also great visibility for our merchants because they see where the stock is when it's in transition, so doesn't disappear.
Fantastic. I mean, I want to touch on just quickly in a moment who you sell to and how you sell, because there seems like there's return on investment, like throwing from many different ways. And so I would love to hear about that conversation, the type of companies and how you support them on their journey. But I just want to pause on the point you made there about not having demand information and maybe speak to why I was personally excited to partner with Byrd at Zencargo. If I think about the future of supply chain, it is the combination of demand forecasts, inventory in warehouse, and flexibility and distributed inventory, and inbound visibility and inbound data flows at a SKU level. And it sounds very simple, what's coming in, including what's been ordered, what's in the warehouse or warehouses if they work with Byrd, and then what's the demand, and how do you make smart decisions? It is incredibly difficult when you say that's across 100,000 SKUs across 7 countries or 8 countries or 9 countries or in the future 20 countries powered by Byrd. It makes supply chains very, very difficult to manage. But I think there's a huge opportunity over the next 5 years as digitization just accelerates and goes through the roof for businesses like ours to partner, not try to, we don't want to be the best at what you do. And likewise, I think you don't want to be the best at what we do, but partner and really drive our customers forward. So maybe just tell me for a minute then in terms of what size customers do you work with? And candidly, I'm just interested, when you sell, do you sell based on sort of education and this is what it can unlock? Or do you do a real deep dive? This is the tangible dollars and cents or euros that we're going to drive in your supply chain over the next 2 years.
Yeah. First, let me quickly respond to your point. Right, that's what I was hinting at with great freight partners. We are very excited to work together because the analog nature of supply chain makes it inherently hard to predict and measure. And I think what you folks are doing is going to be hugely exciting and beneficial, I think, for both of our customer bases. So excited to do more of that as well. And with regards to our customers, who are they, and kind of what's our pitch, if you will, right? So so we work with a range. I think historically it's been pure play online direct to consumer merchants, and that was how we kicked off the business. Many of them have grown into large omni-channel brands by now, and so have kind of our customer group has expanded since then, right? So we're still serving those folks, right? They typically start in one country. They have maybe a smaller portfolio of companies. But since we have shown that we can enable them to scale and grow to many different products in many different markets, and we've expanded our market coverage, the kind of target customers that also come to us have become a lot larger. So we have a lot of big brands, also US brands, for example. They're not interested in, Austrian fulfillment, to go back to that, or Spanish fulfillment, but they're interested in accessing Europe, right? And that's the really exciting bit where we work with customers in Europe, but also outside of Europe. Anyone who wants to access the market, I think, finds a really, really good solution with us. And what we kind of consult them on or sell them on, right, is basically the best supply chain setup. We ask for a ton of data, to be honest, right? There's a bit of homework to do, but I think it's required if you really want to build a sophisticated setup. So we ask for, the type of products, the destinations, to keep it simple. And based on that, we do an analysis, and we basically, what we try to do is we don't come up with like, look, here's a price, that's what it's going to cost you. But we really try to assess their status quo, and we try to assess how we can improve that status quo with our capabilities, and then give them basically a return on investment suggestion. And it's typically, because we don't have complete information, a bit off, but then we discuss it, and ideally when our customers sign with us, they know exactly how it's going to improve their supply chain compared to where they are right now.
I really like that, because for me, there's a lot of excellent professionals in our industry, but I think the next wave is all about tangible value. So when we at Zencargo are talking about what we do, we don't just say to prospective customers, hey, here's some visibility, now come work with us. It's the same spirit as what you're saying. Is like there's a lot of hidden value in supply chains. Our mission is to make our customer supply chain their competitive advantage. And I think businesses like yours and ours, in terms of how we go to market and how we think about that hidden value, is exactly the right approach and will benefit customers the most. I mean, I had to say, from what you're saying, if I was a brand either in Europe and thinking about expanding, an American brand, a Chinese brand, an Australian brand, entering the market and trying to have flexibility, I totally get why they would want to speak to you and perhaps they would want to work with you. Maybe one last question for me, just looking ahead. Huge value prop today. The market is moving in this direction of more distributed and flexible inventory. Where do you see the innovation cycles over the next couple of years, 3 to 5 years? What else is going to push on?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Can go into multiple directions. I think what we're going to see is a lot more, let's say, a lot more data generated by a company like us, by a company like yours, but also down to the last mile returns, etc. So I think we're going to sit on a wealth of data in the next 5 years. They're going to have another huge level of potential, because no company's kind of, supply chain is so big and so complex that there's always going to be specialized players in certain parts of the supply chain. And bringing their data pools together is going to be incredibly valuable to provide visibility. So I think a lot of it remains, even if it has been for the last 5 years, certainly about visibility, it will remain a key topic. And then benefiting from data and analyzing that data, I think, is going to be a hugely important thing. So that's certainly the way we look at things, because we want to help more with, what we touched upon earlier, automating decisions, because as the complexity grows, even with advanced solutions, there's a ton of decisions to be made and a ton of things to be considered. And with more data, you can support that. And I think that's going to be the most relevant things or for merchants as they are kind of required to upgrade their supply chain. We need to help them to cut through the complexity of it. And so I think visibility and decision making based on data is going to stick around for the next 5 years. Yeah, for sure.
We're early on a journey that will be incredibly powerful for the next 5 years. Listen, Alex, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been great to hear about Byrd, about your journey, and about the value that you offer to brands, omni-channel brands, direct-to-consumer brands from Europe or entering Europe. Incredibly excited to see what you do next, and glad that we're aligned and that we've created our partnership between Zencargo and Byrd. And thank you to all of you, whether you're at home, on the way to work, at the office, listening to this podcast. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And I hope to see you all soon. Alex, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
All right. See you all. Thanks so much.